Surprisingly, 9 Souls is the first of its series and contains 10 souls. If there has been any time for false advertising, it's now. Talking of false advertising, who here enjoys my weekly uploads? Yeah, that's a funny joke. Welcome back, definitely rabid fans. While my fan base is more of a fan 10, or even a fan prison, I can't deny that I enjoy dunking on good games, and promoting lesser quality ones. Have any of you guys heard of Rental? However, this specific game is a special one. Not only because I have more than an hour in playtime, I know, amazing video game essay YouTuber, thank you, but it's a 2D Metroidvania. Ooh, what's this game? Insert arbitrary Silksong reference. Like the soul in 9 Souls suggests, it takes heavy inspiration from one of the hardest and most popular parry-based Souls games, Thymesia. Sekiro. Whoops, that just kinda slipped out. And while it's no lie that I am not advised to any Souls game, I feel that relying on your combat is something you should almost never do as a 2D game, especially a Metroidvania one. Unless you're Cuphead, but we don't talk about Cuphead. And I must sneak in a disclaimer, I've not completed the game. This is just a current impression, and I have a long way to go before I actually complete it and, get an ending, or all of them, trying 100%. However, in my opinion is just so factual and correct that I don't need a full playthrough to complete this video. Also, full video coming next month on 9 Souls, unless it doesn't. Also, I need another disclaimer, I'm rolling in these, and this one is rather important for your health and safety. Please subscribe. There is a great street gang right outside your house that I've hired, and it would be a great shame if you lost your knees in a tragic car accident due to not subscribing and getting hit by a semi-truck. Also, YouTube, this is a joke. Probably. And action! We're back to hating on an indie game, once again. Like a fully grown, middle-aged man going haywire on a kindergarten. Whoops, that just kinda slipped out as well. Now, I really enjoy the whimsical nature of 9 Souls dialogue and the fun and relaxed gameplay. It's like Animal Crossing, but 2D. Just kidding. If there is a moment in this game where you're not appreciating the graphic design and amazing environment while simultaneously being beaten to a pulp by a random hero with a club, then you're not playing the right 9 Souls and probably just pirated Hollow Knight on accident. The gameplay tries to feel fluid and snappy, while also trying to show off a diverse movement system that even Metroid Dread could get green eyes for. But sadly, like majority of game devs, they hit an ambition wall, then they hit it with a damn flaming sledgehammer, trying to mash in as many mechanics, #quirky characters, and good abilities in their 15GB limit game size will allow. Which, as I can hope you can imagine, is quite a lot actually. But like my friend say in response to hanging out with me, less is more, whatever that's supposed to mean. While there are a lot of things added to this game to help spice up the repetitive 5 enemies controlled throughout the map, it, like my father's backstory, are not very fleshed out. Warning, mild spoilers from this point, you've been warned. Also, I feel like I have to mention that I have not fully completed the game, but reading a few posts from people, I can tell that they don't particularly like the ending of it, and possibly further highlights my issues with it. But I do love this game, and I think that would be really neat if you bought it and played it, if you want to of course. And this creator worked really hard on it, thank you. Anyway, spoiler warning over. Now that we ditched those losers that actually want to play the game I'm talking about, imagine, I'll proceed to mention some mechanics of the game that were not very fleshed out. Warning, this ginormous hate train of review is going to go on for the majority of the video. So just be warned, if you want to hear something good about 9 Souls, probably click off this video. Anyway, post-failures, back to past failures, which is currently the present failures in his mind. Anyway, I will proceed to mention some mechanics of the game that were not very fleshed out, and how an aspiring game developer such as myself could improve on them. Me, just stealing their work and then trying to make it better, in my opinion. Now, note, I can barely program movement and terminal velocity, so don't believe me, guys, but I do have enough knowledge in the game developing course to probably know how it would be possible and what wouldn't be possible with budget to program. First off, we have the classic sword attack. This comes from Yi, the main protag's fingers? What is this, Cuphead? Like most games, the attack button is a spammable one with a cooldown, and does not respond to held commands. This is good as it prevents sneak strike users from evaporating everything in their path by just doing frame-perfect strikes by holding down the button. As well as that, the sword uses a combo mechanic, where the third hit in a row will net you a sort of super strike that does a measly 150% more damage, to my knowledge. This is just a rough estimation, and when the true stats get leaked by another 5-year-old Chinese kid who wants to speedrun 9 Souls, then you guys will truly see how bad I am at maths. This would be very good, but the huge non-slash attacks deal a whopping 20% less, which are not the combo ones, making the combo use case more of a combo feature, or a combo requirement. However, most enemies don't cosplay as me during the summer holidays and actually move around, making it a lot harder to keep that slashing streak up, and that's assuming that they aren't trying to bash you in the process as well. I would personally fix my gripes with the melee attack by making it more akin to Hollow Knight, with the funny animation flourishes still active, making it have that style points. Attacks would deal the same damage, and the funny 3-hit combo could be used instead as like a multiplier, where instead of the final attack, even if you don't hit something dealing more damage, the more you hit them, the more it will add to the damage, adding like, 20% more to the base damage per sword attack. So it'd start as 100%, then 120%, then 140%, you get the gist. Anyway, every consecutive hit, while still making a single hit useful too. This would, because 3 is a neat number, and we probably want to cap it out, so we're going to make it so that after the 3rd hit, you can still deal the max amount of damage, but it won't add to any more. This will prevent people from basically, sneak strike camping or just damage tanking through bosses, which would not be very good, and not be very Nine Souls of them. I said the game name. Now, charge strikes in this game have always been very rewarding to get off. Well, not really in this game, but in most of them. For example, Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, Link's Awakening. Other games like that, charged attacks manage to get off like a lot more damage, and it's very worth it. Now, oh boy, do I have issues with this little devil from Nine Souls. First, let's get the main point going straight, okay? Charging attacks in Nine Souls that are not the regular slashes takes a ridiculous amount of time for no reason. You can still do regular actions while charging, so it is not a strategetic thing. We have to try and find a place where you won't take damage, and the damage is not worth it, as the amount of time it takes you to charge up the slash attack, you can just spam regular ones while charging. So, as well as that, the amount of time it takes, it's not worth the damage, and my next problem is the actual mechanic in general. The average charging time takes upwards of 4 seconds, which is 2 more than it needed to be. Now let's touch on the idea of risk and reward. If I risk everyone stopping watching me, my reward is more time to play games that I will make videos on. Oh god, I've got nothing else to do. Anyway, as you can see with this random and non-funny explanation of the risk and reward factor, the reward of more time is not worth the possibility that my real internet clout might dry up because I was lazy. Now, using this same method to realize the risk and rewards of using a charged attack in combat, let's look at the risk. Due to the large amount of time using a charged attack in combat, let's go with the fact that you're probably going to make a mistake if you're, as bad at this game as I am. Because you're focusing charging your strike, you could maybe miss a jump or parry in the process, possibly causing more damage than would have from just normal attacks. And your reward greatly underperforms that in comparison. The damage is mediocre, making it easier to simply use 5 regular attacks. I tested, it does more damage. And the charge attack and the lack of iframes you get, because it's kind of like a dash where you stay midair for maybe 5 or 6 frames afterwards, that you do to perform, could even cause more damage afterwards, meaning that you're basically taking triple damage for free. The enemies are just getting pot shots at this point. Also, the whole point is the game is for, combat, which is its main selling point, to feel exhilarating. So just jumping around while you're charging up a big attack is not really good for combat purposes. And, games mostly try to be exhilarating or to be Animal Crossing. And simply sitting around not attacking, which is what the game is mainly based around, is not good game design in general. And it's just lack of respect for the gamer's times. Especially for the amount of time that charging uses. The developers even recognized how long it takes, making a Jade that would charge the charge attack faster if you don't move. But this is redundant, as not moving means you have a period of time where you're simply not doing anything. And again, game design stance, this is horrible. And as well as that, what is worse is charging this would be so easy. Just shorten the time. It's so easy to fix. Just shorten the time, give it more damage, or just give it iframes. Or maybe just stun enemies instead to squeeze out that much more damage to make it worth it. Now, there is one more function, which is that it can break large, kind of cracked walls. But here's the thing, there are 5 walls in the map, and I got that ability chapters ago. Now this one's more of a small smidgen of beef I have with the game, and that's the speed. Because you're constantly traveling between the same pavilion, which is the main hub of the game, and whatever new cave you want to scurry through, you have to stay, in the pavilion a lot, and I'm going to talk about that later, so I'll hold out for now. But truly, I think that the dash regenerates way too slowly. Take Hollow Knight. Oh, I'm going to make so many references. Their dash feels natural because it has a relatively fast regen time, while still being staggered enough to present zooming. Now, I know giving it iframes makes it a little bit different, but just make it so that there's a separate time for regenning the dash, and the iframe dash, like Hollow Knight. But despite this, I still think that the dash is good, and just adding to the pile of negativity is my main purpose with that. Now, parrying. It's mildly endorsed throughout the game, kind of being its main shtick, its thing, its gimmick. And being funny is my thing. Wait, why are you guys booing? However, I do not like the way that parrying works, because it's such a focused feature. I'll try to use care in balancing out this mechanic, as literally every boss fight uses it at least once. But personally, I feel that it was made in such a horrible way. Not only is this timing shadier than the guy hanging out in my dumpster, but it kind of flings you backwards every parried hit, which is very awkward if you're kind of on an edge. But there have been countless situations where I've been pushed off a cliff because I had the audacity to use core game mechanics, which is interesting. While I do understand that parrying is used to deflect enemies' attacks, making it much more realistic as blades don't just no-clip through each other, I think that a much more balanced way of handling parries would be to push your enemy back instead, making it so that your position does not get compromised and you still get the parry. Now, I have a few more issues with the parry, but that will come later in the video, when you guys are probably going to click off. Now, a smaller thing for me to complain about is the healing. While it's very nice and all, and I think that it is very funny that you simply smoke weed to regain health, I get very uncomfortable with the health you receive back. If they could just round it so that it had properly fits into the segments of the health bar, then that would be really neat. Or if they simply remove the segments from the health bar in the first place, then that would make it look a lot neater. I know it's a small thing, and you fellows might not agree. That's where you comment down below, and really, long comments are good, because then it gets more random people like you discovering my videos. Thanks, by the way, for watching. Talismans. They are certainly a feature, one that I certainly don't like. In order to pull off a talisman attack, you must dash through an enemy, attaching a talisman doohickey on the way. But here's the spin. You don't get immunity frames when you dash, meaning that you can easily get juggled whenever the enemy feels like, you don't time the attacks properly, to just launch you in the air and absolutely break every bone in your body. And then once you do, if you do land a hit, you have to hold the talisman button to detonate it. But if you let go for even one frame, the talisman just evaporates, like my social life. Again, in the tutorial for this, none of these downsides are explained, and it took me a long time to get this tutorial correct. It was like the first time I got stuck in a freaking tutorial. And I'm gonna say, this was probably the shakiest of the tutorials. Normally they're pretty good. I mean, I don't know why it had to be the hardest to learn mechanic that was like this, but it's fine. If I had to fix the talisman feature, then I would personally make it so you had a window to get the button down and up, and maybe, do some stuff like parrying or dashing away, because of the copious amount of band guys that are spawned in. And that would give you iframes in the talisman dash, but not for the full period, because the exploding part kind of feels like a thing where you have to strategically place yourself, but if you don't have enough strategy or time to actually place yourself, it just becomes, again, more pot shots for the enemy, which is, again, not very good. Now, if there's one thing I like, it's money. Take this channel, for example. If there is one thing I don't like, it's losing money. Take this channel, for example. I know a lot of Souls games like losing money as a mechanic, and heck, even Metroidvanias use a system where money can evaporate if you don't collect it before dying again. But in Nine Souls, money, or should I say Jin, is so important to the game, being the motivation behind fighting any enemies at all. God, that's like an Eminem rap. And the fact that you'll die so often is just further motivations, not for not having money, as it will help you on your journey for spending. Now, because you die so often, you lose money, and it just creates an infinite cycle where you need money so you don't lose money, so you can buy stuff to help you not lose money, because you need money. I feel like this is an unnecessary part of the game, as it adds even more micromanagement and tedium that you wouldn't need. And it just doesn't add anything to the game, and it's not a unique feature. There is no challenge, and there is no punishment for collecting the money. Just an input and the requirement to reach an area you've already explored. And you don't lose all money after collecting it. Nine Souls guys, if you're out there, please get rid of this feature. It doesn't add anything to the game. Now, for a game based fully around combat, it is surprisingly not fun or polished to combat. Now, this is an indie game, so we can give it some slack, but here's the catch. It's $30. Now, pricing an indie game for a AAA price means that we judge the indie game at AAA standards, and frankly, I'm just not impressed with the combat. The parrying timing is clunky and relies on delayed reaction, and even the simple act of parrying is broken, as you don't get any meaningful reward, just some charge for your talisman attacks, which caps out at the amount you have, by the way, and it takes 2 to explode a talisman, meaning you only really need to parry 2 times max. And dashing around just feels like cheating, as the whole game is based around parrying, and ignoring the main mechanic never goes well in a fighting game. And if you do, God forbid, get walloped by an enemy, just pray you're not in a group larger than 1, because boy oh boy, there are no iframes when you get hit, and you can get from full health to none if you get hit by enough attacks and juggled by the absolute NPCs that have no anti-hit AI. And let me tell you, you'll get this a lot. It's just AI is made for single combat, Souls game style, and melee enemies crowd up against you, and the ranged scramble away so fast that it looks like you get hit by condensed air. So, in a group, you're probably going to get finished off pretty fast if you get hit even once, because you can't control yourself when you get hit. The damage is also too big to tank, as you have to parry it, and that's kind of the thing, making most fights just about dashing left and right, kiting them around, which is riveting gameplay. The game has no respect for the player, making every action have no iframes, meaning that even if you do attack them with a strong attack, charge attack, you can still get juggled to the high heavens with it. Again, I have more problems with money on combat level 2. If you dare die to an enemy directly, then they will obtain a small glowing ring circle around them, and you must kill them to regain your money. But here's the thing, there are some huge enemies that are basically infant boss fights that you probably won't know how to beat, or simply don't have the skill to. These enemies are out in your regular path, and you have to beat some of them to win, and if you die to them, they absorb your money, meaning you only have 2 tries to beat a pseudo-boss before just losing all your cash. That's another great example of bad game design, which personally I felt like the Nine Souls devs would probably see through, but they didn't, which is a bit surprising. The rest of my problems here are things that can't be changed, like my social life, but just plain old I don't like. The dialogue is serious and flat, making most characters speak either for too long, or for unrelated reasons, going on tangents more than me talking about Little Nightmares. Hey, did you hear that they got Little Nightmares 3 was delayed again? That was great. Where were we? Oh yeah. And most plot points are pretty bad examples of, storytelling. A truly bad example is the intro, where you get a whole 5-minute lore drop, which is basically just a cliff scene and a 2-minute cutscene with barely any player input. The tutorial is good-ish, but then you get dropped into another tutorial afterwards, so it's kinda useless. And you guys know I'm not the brightest lad, and starting for game fresh with what was basically a 7-minute long cutscene and having to rate it, soured my taste already. But let me just say for a minute, I don't see enough praise for the village design. The music goes hard, and the character design goes harder. And now, while there is way too much dialogue at the start, making it very egregious, I'm gonna say a time when the dialogue was not bad was when you bought the large shoe bride thing and proceed to play 4D chess with your younger sister, in sort of like a flashback sort of thing. Not only was this very funny and cute, the dialogue helped building up the personality of character and motives of your sister, but it also showed stunning artwork for the backgrounds that kind of worked like Subway Surfers in my ADHD mind, helping me draw my focus back to the dialogue. This scene would have hit a lot harder if 10 minutes prior I hadn't talked to the sister again. The lore, or at least so far, is pretty obvious, seeming to build up to the big reveal that I'm sure will be the fact that Yi, our dear protag, is actually the 10th soul. Whoa, I guessed it, no way. Now I like hubs. Sushi hub. Game hubs. Corn hub. But there is such thing as too many hubs. In Hollow Knight, you only spend an hour max in Dirtmouth, ignoring Growprint Zote. You only return there to buy stuff. Now, this is good game design and good capitalism, as you don't get sick of the hub, but it's balanced enough to have a reason to return there and see all your progress you've made in the game. Now, also, it's not connected to everything. Alright, let's look at Nine Souls now. Oh no. Oh no. Why is every area only reached through the pavilion? That makes you have to return to the pavilion every time you complete level. Now, there is a lot of things in the pavilion, but you only really need 2 of them. Robotic Garfield for major upgrades, and a 3D printer for minor upgrades. I'm not even a third of the way through the game, and I'm already sick of the pavilion, and let me tell you, you're gonna see a lot more of this in the recordings. Unless I cut them out, which would be kinda ironic. I love to move. In video games, of course, and games with fluent movement can make or break the game. Celeste barely has controls, but the ones it does have make me, a little obsessed. Little Nightmares sure has controls. Enough said. but Nine Souls controls are just feeling a little bit off. The jump is slightly too short to actually reach most things, and the ledge grab you get just slows down the game. The edge run is finicky and easy to slip off, and the hitboxes for traps vary in size and damage, even between the same type of traps. There is no real reason to fix this though, because majority of the game is a fighting game anyway. Also, side note, but you can't hold down input moves in the cursor, in the Jade section, or for shopping in the menus. I don't like this. Yes, I play controller on PC, fight me, but on Nine Souls. You know that feeling you guys get when I upload yet another Little Nightmares video? That tedious feeling? The feeling I get when I see every single enemy in the area. The basic archer and sword guy are used so often, in addition to the peaking and upgraded version of them, that I generally think I could play a solid hour without finding any new enemies in the game. For a game with such price and caliber, especially because it aims at being a fighting game, more enemy variety would be greatly enjoyed, or just enjoyed more than the same 5 enemies for hours and hours on end. And currently, the current variety just doesn't cut it for a game that tries to be artistically good, as well as gameplay good. If you like good immersion, then don't go hoping for anything here. Every environment is made to be so carefully made, so beautiful, but you can randomly fade to black due to traps, scene loads, and more, and because of the loading time, this breaks immersion faster than the subscribe notice. Talking of that, what's that red button below the video? Just wondering. Just don't fade to black where traps are, and we are good. Do a Cuphead and bounce Yi away from the traps, or teleport him back. Just please, no fade to blacks. Especially not in combat. That's something where you shouldn't be just teleporting everywhere. Now, Nine Souls is an undoubtedly hard game, and no pick up the baby option, so I recommend either making a normal difficulty, which is a in-between, or renaming normal to hard, and whatever, and story to easy, or medium. Just complaints Reddit people have made about the difficulty, and I kind of feel contractually obliged to help you guys out, because Reddit's where I get most of my data and stuff. Now, I've spent a very long time screwing Nine Souls, but in all honesty, Nine Souls is a great game. The art goes above and beyond. The creative blend of traditional and futuristic Japanese art by a Korean artist helps you connect with the game even more. And the music slaps harder than the enemies. Character design goes hard, or sometimes you, if you dare witness the Bird Lady character, my friend's words exactly, and the difficulty is fun for Souls players, and people who like dying a lot. The map is expansive and larger than your mum, the teenage audience is now satisfied, and the boss fights are generally very fun, apart from the Bird Ladies, though this could generally change. The upgrades feel fair and very spread out, which is something that even Hollow Knight struggles with sometimes. Dash. As well as that, the combat is fun to do for a while, and the characters are charming and well worked on. You can distinctly tell who you're messing around with immediately, and they all have different speech patterns. The voice acting is superb, and the intro is creative. The tutorials work while still not being an immersion breaker, and they have some truly unique set pieces, and they use them very well. The environment gimmicks do not feel tedious and make sense, and the objects and art approach is just so damn good. The controls feel responsive, and there is no major bugs to my knowledge. All in all, get Nine Souls if you dare, but prepare for a long ride filled with tedium and rage. Though the reward you do get for enduring the more grindy of the bits is an amazing game, great visuals, and a compelling storyline. While the price is a little bit much, I have had a lot of fun, and I also played Elden Ring, so I can't really complain, and it was definitely worth it. I know I've ripped into this game, but it is truly deserving all the praise it gets, and I think that the praise is what it should take out of this, not me being all negative on this. It's just, I haven't seen a lot of videos being negative about it, and I kind of feel like I kind of needed to go out and say this. Remember to tickle that subscribe button, smack that like button, and whack your friends until they watch as well. Thanks for being here, it's been Phalees, and I finally uploaded a Nine Souls video. Thanks for watching. Bye. Why are you still here?